Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Crystal, and I'm your host for today's session, Nurturing Intimacy Where We Find It, Cultivating Love When Traditional Attachment Figures Aren't Reliable. And it's with Cindy Darnell. And as we gather today, we're all joining from different corners of the globe. So just to take a sacred pause to acknowledge the land that you reside on, we respectfully honor the people and the cultures and the traditions. And again, just taking a moment just to acknowledge where we are and where we're all joining from. So with that, let me introduce you to Cindy Darnell. Cindy Darnell is a world-renowned sex and relationship expert. She brings over 25 years of clinical and practical expertise to the world of intimacy, relationships, and somatic healing. She's the author of Sex When You Don't Feel Like It, The Truth About Mismatched Libido and Rediscovering Desire. She works online with people of all genders and orientations around the world and many relationship configurations via Zoom. And with that, I'd love to hand it over to you, Cindy. Thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you, everybody. And thank you, Crystal. Thank you, Embody Lab. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you. I'm thrilled to see so many of you here. And as part of that welcoming, I want to invite you to just tune in to yourself and notice what you're bringing into this space with you today, and everything is welcome. 3 breaths just to get yourself grounded. I like to do in through the nose and out through the mouth, but you can do any version that you like. Notice what your body's doing. Notice what you're notice what you're noticing. What are you feeling? What are you noticing internally? What are you noticing in the space that you're in, where you are? Are you in a room? Are you outside? What can you hear? And what are you anticipating? What's happening even at an emotional level, not just a physical level? And if there's anything that you need before we spend the next hour and a bit together, this would be a good time to go and get it if you need a drink or a extra pillow under your butt, whatever you need. So welcome to Nurturing Intimacy, where we find it, cultivating love when traditional attachment figures aren't reliable. When I was invited to teach this class late last year, I was really thinking deeply about what I wanted to share with all of you, because personally, and I would be interested to hear your thoughts on this too, I have many complex and mixed feelings about attachment theory in the general sense, and that those complex and mixed feelings encourage me to make room within myself for things like curiosity and inquiry and debate, frankly, and acceptance. And often I have to hold all of these things at once when I think about attachment theory. And because I have such a textured relationship with attachment theory as a concept, I wanted to bring a perspective to this weekend, among all the other folks who you're seeing over the weekend, that invites us to widen our lens about attachment from traditionally just the romantic perspective, which is how it's often fed to us, instead to a perspective that encompasses human connection across the board. And so, because attachment is talked about a lot in romance context, it's talked about, in couples therapy and dating coaches, all tend to reference attachment work as part of their skill set, which, of course, that's fine. But where I'm left curious is, why is it that we as a culture, as a society, tend to only hear about the healing of attachment through romance? Why do we do that? Because there's no reason necessarily, but it seems to be a default. And What I think about this is that romance culture is enticing and it offers a balm to soothe often feelings that come with difficult attachment around feelings of unworthiness and loneliness. And even as I say these words, unworthiness and loneliness, you might notice some feelings coming up in you. This idea of, I'm waiting for the one, or I'm waiting for my prince or my princess, my beloved, my soulmate, my significant other. And these concepts are fine, if they are accessible to you, if they are meaningful to you, if they resonate for you, that's fine. I'm not saying that these concepts are not important. But there are many people, and perhaps you are one of these people, I certainly am one of these people, for whom these concepts either feel out of reach or they have the opposite effect than soothing when I think about them or when I engage with them, when I think about those kinds of relational, aspirational words. They don't fill me with joy. If anything, I feel my body wincing and pulling away from them. If anything, it's sort of, I think for a lot of people, certainly a lot of my clients will relate to those words with a sense of aspirational, that one day I will have this, but also a sense of trepidation. Well, what if? What if I fall short? What does that mean for my attachment? What does that mean for my healing? It's almost as if we can't get there if we don't reach this idealized romantic pinnacle. And so, for you, I know for myself, for years I tried to fit myself into traditional relationship models and traditional roles, and it always felt awful for me. And I could never work out why. And I felt very disconnected from myself while I was trying to be this thing that didn't resonate for me, that didn't match for me. And in the process of trying to be something I wasn't, I was then constantly met with feelings of being unworthy, that I was unlovable. And then, as a queer or non-conforming person whose romantic and sexual life took on a very different trajectory than many of my friends, even many of my queer and alternative friends, I felt more at odds with the world in pursuit of this than it was supposed to be trying to heal and to help me. It made me feel even more like I didn't fit in. And when I was much younger, this ultimately led to feelings of loneliness that for me were completely debilitating. And so all of this I endured as a much younger person because I was trying to shoehorn myself into a script of romance culture that simply didn't work for me. And so before we go on with the rest of this class today, I want to open it up to you either with speech, we can turn your microphones on temporarily, or comments in the chat box. Is that you? I want to hear your comments and how do you feel personally about attachment theory and romance culture, how these things join together. What are some of your thoughts and feelings about what I'm saying? Hi.
So I was trying to catch this, and I think that the reason that we put so much onus on relationships and attachment theory is because our attachment wound originates from our childhood, and our parents don't have the capacity to help us to heal.
Right.
And so we put the locus of control externally instead of internally, and then we focus on a partner when we are the ones that need to give ourselves agency to heal that within us first so that we can
Mhm.
then heal the
Yep.
attachment, and
Yep.
then we can uh then we can seek a partner. Otherwise we're going to perpetuate these cycles based on these attachment wounds, finding these people who do not serve our healing but serve in perpetuating this attachment wound.
Yes, yes, certainly that's perhaps, the most common view of attachment that it is perpetuated through romance culture. I absolutely. Ginger.
So as a trans woman, I find like everything you just said about the romance culture and like the attachment issues and such, it really resonates with me because all of them were written based on more traditional romance, and I can't have a traditional romance as a trans woman, it feels, and especially because I am a lesbian, and there's the aspects of romance that people always are like, well, there has to be the man and woman, and when you put that into any type of relational stuff, like stuff, it's hard to be like, okay, so where are we when it's two women? And how does it work? And I'm like working on myself right now, trying to rebuild an attachment that was severed because of all these like issues that were underlying in my previous partner and hopefully future partner. But um, so yeah, that like really resonates with me. I really am looking forward to your presentation.
Oh, good. Thank you, Ginger. I appreciate you sharing. And yeah, this is such a common experience for folks who um from a variety of backgrounds and orientations, but for whom the traditional relationship models just they don't fit, they don't work, they just don't. And that with the onus ends up being on us, that we feel we are defective, that we are wrong, that we have to aspire to this other thing. And apart from the fact that it's so much energy, I really, today's workshop is about shifting that compass to go, well, we're cultivating love where we find it. There is a love around, and especially in the times that we're living in, we have to be looking for and cultivating different types of love and expanding our understanding of not only where attachment theory serves us, but also remembering that attachment theory is a theory. It's not hard science. So we are able to play with it and move it in order to move with the times, that our ability to connect with humans extends way beyond just romance culture. We can include romance culture, but also there are so many other ways to work with and heal our attachment wounds. So thank you so much, Ginger, and I really appreciate you speaking up.
Thank you.
Um, I'm just gonna go and look at some of the other comments here. Goodness, there are so many. Um, oh, I'm a bit overwhelmed with how many there are. My goodness, there's so many of you. You're saying it resonates, it feels familiar. The pressure and confusion of trying out different relationship styles, right? Um, yes, a sense of failure dominated by the idea that attachment and romance, the goal of parenting, right? Self-love and compassion gets lost in our culture. Yes, absolutely. There's that, the healing attachments, the wounds that we can heal with ourselves. Um, Delaying romance. Oh, I think having it mostly romance-based can delay healing. I agree. I absolutely agree. We're waiting for the one before recognizing actually we have people around us that we can do healing work with. It feels precarious to expect romance partners to be sources of secure attachment. Too much emphasis on romance culture in general. All right, so you're all here with very, very similar ideas. There are so many comments here. I'm going to keep going. I don't mean to ignore all of the fabulous comments here, but we keep them for the future as well. So, okie doke. So, as we've been discussing, our expectations of romantic partners to take our pain away, to take away our hurt and our trauma and our insignificance. And so because of that, a lot of us we bring a lot to romantic relationships in Western culture, don't we? When we've been spoon-fed this thing of when I find the one, all this ick is going to just disintegrate. And despite this, many of us still struggle with fulfilling romantic relationships. Perhaps we have romantic relationships, but they fail to make the grade. They fail to take the pain away. They fail to do the thing that we are told they have the capacity to do. And again, it leaves us feeling like we are missing something if we don't, fill in the blank. So we find ourselves in a catch-22. Like, I can't heal my attachment until I'm in a healthy relationship, but I can't have a healthy relationship until I heal my attachment. So we just go around and around and around and around. Right. So in some ways, many of us lack the skills to cultivate and sustain romantic relationships with others because of attachment wounds. I see that, and I know that that's a thing. And it's also because we've been waiting for romantic attachments as opportunities for healing rather than expanding our circles of joy to increase our capacity for connection. Our capacity for connection. And this can also include questioning the romantic and social scripts that have been handed to us, whether they serve us or not. And so, outside of romance, and actually even within romance culture, attachment wounds can often show up in us, as I said earlier, unworthiness and loneliness. And, personally, I think about loneliness often, and there's been a lot of articles written recently, even in the mainstream press, about loneliness epidemics and adults not having friends like they used to, and people not having community like they used to, and more, even though we have this, we have, however many hundred people here today online. Few of us actually get to do this in person. And that's not to say that this is not a great opportunity. I think it's incredibly awesome. And the things that the Embody Lab does, bringing us together to have these conversations, is crucial. And it enables us from all corners of the planet to be able to do it together. And then, do we have these types of opportunities in the towns where we live, in the cities where we live, in the neighborhoods, in the suburbs, in the villages where we live? Could we tolerate being with each other like this in real life? Because this is where healing happens for attachment, in spaces like this. So when we experience distance and disconnection from ourselves and from others, this is often what perpetuates this overwhelming feeling of unworthiness that so many of us carry, or perhaps for those of you who are therapists and coaches, that your clients carry. And so I want to invite you now, with your permission, to get into a comfy kind of spot, sitting or lying down if you feel. And if you feel comfortable, closing your eyes. And if that feels not okay, just drop your gaze. You don't have to be engaging with me. I'm going to invite you to go into yourself. So whatever your eyes need to do for that to happen. And so, as I've been talking for the last few minutes about unworthiness and loneliness, which tend to be pretty strong feelings and sensations for people, I want to invite you to notice where you feel unworthiness in your body. Where does it show up for you? Because a lot of us might feel it like for a moment, and then we'll push away from it because it generally doesn't feel great. In fact, I'd say for a lot of people, it feels very bad. Its cousin is shame. It's at that level of ugh. And yet, when we can't tolerate being with it physically, viscerally, emotionally, we ignore it. And this is sometimes how we end up in situations where we perpetuate these wounds from our childhood. But when we can say, okay, when I connect with unworthiness, I feel it. Oh, I feel it in my stomach, or I feel it across my chest, across my clavicle. Oh, I feel it in my mouth. Just noticing where you feel unworthiness in your body. And when do you feel unworthiness? Is it in situations like this? Is it more in one-to-one in-person situations? Is it when you have to go and visit your family of origin? Is it when you go to your job? Is it when you are sitting with your partner or your spouse or your child? Just noticing your visceral and emotional relationship to unworthiness. That's all. We don't have to do anything with it right now. Just noticing it. Deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. Big. In through the nose and out through the mouth. I want to invite you now, with your permission, to notice your response when I say the word loneliness. I just noticed I had a twitch in my neck and my shoulder when I said that. What happens to you when I say loneliness? Where does it land for you, if it even does, or does it just slide off like a hot frying pan? A lot of us find it very hard to stick with these types of emotions and sensations because they're fucking awful. They're just horrible. Yet our inability to be with them is part of what perpetuates pain. So just noticing, oof, I'm a little bit slippery and slidey, or yep, I can hold it. Maybe tears come. Maybe there's some agitation. I want to get away. Oh, tightness. And when in your life do you feel loneliness? If at all, perhaps you don't ever feel lonely. But you probably have at one time, and you may again in the future. The unworthiness and loneliness are very common, normal feelings. They're unpleasant feelings, but they're common and they're normal. And our ability to heal them is through knowing them and knowing their ways when they are in our lives. Our practice of tending to them, being with them, noticing, oh, unworthiness is here. Come to visit. Loneliness is here. Come to visit. And what do you notice? What happens to your body when you allow yourself to feel them? So we've been working with them now for a couple of minutes. Do they feel the same as they did a few minutes ago, or do they feel a little bit different now? What do you notice? As we push a little bit into the discomfort, lean into the discomfort that these feelings bring, does it get a bit easier? Does it feel the same? Does it feel harder? And you're just like, no, I'm out. This is too much for me. All options are welcome. What happens to your body when you allow yourself to feel them? And then following from there, what effect does this have on you? So we're thinking about, what does it do for your spatial awareness in the room you're in? What does it do for your monkey mind? Are you thinking a lot? Is your mind quietening? Is there a softening that's happening? Are you noticing a shift in temperature? Is your mouth dry? Are you having complicated memories, strange things that you can smell? Just noticing the effect it has on you when you allow yourself permission to build your capacity to tolerate these sensations that normally we would cast to the side. Because if we carry these sensations around with us, these feelings around with us every day, which sometimes when we're in the thick of feeling unlovable or unworthy or lonely, even if we carry these things around unconsciously, unintentionally, they can start to have an impact on the quality of our lives, the quality of our relationships. If we're moving into interactions, holding these feelings, but not aware that we're holding them, what effect could they have on our capacity to find the love where we find ourselves? If everything is unworthiness, loneliness facing first, might that shut us down from having the opportunity to connect with people who are not romantic partners? Just something to think about. If you feel up to it, you can lift your gaze or open your eyes, come back to me, notice your body. Take a couple of deep breaths, take a sip of water if you have some. I'd like to invite a couple of reflections from those of you who did it about your experience of this practice. Okay, so for folks who are feeling dissociated, do what you need to do to bring yourself back if you can. This is about self-care. This is about self-responsibility. Bring yourself back into your body. Do whatever rituals you need to do. Tightness and loosening after sitting with those feelings. It's refreshing to invite loneliness and unworthiness, tears and relief, belonging. Belonging is such a big word, isn't it? So big. It was hard. Strong pain in the chest. These are moving very quickly. Tears came and now it's lighter. Okay, so we're getting a bit of a pattern here. Small and removed, unwanting to reach out. So yeah, this is happening. Softening and loving. I also feel attachment should be to self and friends and family, attachment to community. Absolutely, that's what we're talking about today. I could feel it across my chest and down my left side. I felt a sense of move. I find a sense of self and see my movement towards healing. Great. Chest tightening and clenching. It feels like I've created space after honoring my feelings or honing my feelings of unworthiness. Unworthiness, I feel in my head. It feels confusing, neurotic, busy, airy, and ungrounded. Because it is. It's an idea, isn't it? I mean, it can also be a sensation as well. But it's these things that our minds can tell us. And so there is, for so many of us, is that thing of I don't want to feel this, but yet if I don't feel it, it will perpetuate. And so this is an opportunity to lean into the thing and sit with it temporarily and see if it changes. And if it doesn't change, that's okay. That's enough. We all have our limits. So this is a very large workshop. This is a very large space. We're simply just testing what happens if we give ourselves permission to build capacity and move into these feelings, because healing attachment takes this practice. Nothing can be changed until it is faced, as fabulous James Baldwin once said. So many comments here. Unworthiness in the stomach, it didn't change much, but the loneliness in my heart became lighter. So for a lot of us, I can see that when we practice staying with these feelings, when we work with them, by making a little bit of room for them, this is a type of tend and befriend practice. Tending to by paying attention, befriending by saying, okay, you're welcome here. even though I don't like you very much. We don't have to like our feelings, but the invitation is to be with them. And when we be with them, rather than pushing them away, what happens? How do they change? Okay, so let's take 3 more deep breaths. In through the nose, out through the mouth. In through the nose, out through the mouth. So our next practice, I want to invite you again, with your permission, to close your eyes. This one is gentler. Imagine yourself in your happy place, whatever that is, wherever that is. It might be an actual physical place, or it might be a place you go within yourself. Imagine yourself in your happy place, wherever or whatever that is. I want to invite you to feel it with your skin, with your muscles, with your bones. Feel it. If you feel, if it's easier for you to do this practice with your eyes closed, please do so. If it's easier for you to do this as a journaling exercise and you have a pen and paper handy, you can do it that way too. In your happy place, when you feel it, what do you notice at a visceral level? What do you sense? Your senses, ears, eyes, skin, smell, taste. What do you sense? And what's happening externally from you in this happy place? What's the environment? What is the context around you of this happy place? What's happening internally within you, in your guts, in your bones, in your fascia, in your blood, in your fat? What's happening internally when you are in this happy place? Get a sense of the layers of you. There's all this inside stuff. And then there's the skin. And then there's the sensations on the outside. And then there's these deeper awarenesses of things you can smell and see and hear and taste, all in this happy place. There's a lot of depth here. And now, where are you in relation to this place? Are you in it? Are you observing it? Are you under it? Are you on it? How are you placed in the context of this place? Is it around you? Are you around it? And what parts of you come to life in your happy place? Which parts of you do you have greater access to in this place? Is laughter more accessible? Is worthiness more accessible? Is kindness more accessible? Notice how your body feels now in this happy place, in contrast with the experience, the visceral experience of unworthiness and loneliness. And that our bodies have the capacity to feel and to hold and to contain So many possibilities at once. And yet, our tendency, particularly through the lens of romance culture, is it will compel us to be fixated on the unworthiness and the loneliness, often at the expense of all of the yummy stuff you just felt in your happy place. But nobody teaches us that healing attachment is designed to actually bring us to this happy place. And as many of you were saying before in the comments, it's about our relationship to ourselves and our communities and our families. Absolutely. And yet, most of us still aspire to filling up our lives with romantic relationships because we've been told over and 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 over that that is where the healing happens. But for those of us who don't feel healed necessarily by romance, for those of us who don't feel like those mainstream scripts fit us, we get to build happy places that are based on the stuff that actually matters to us. So if your happy place was a physical place, what does that suggest to you about where healing might be relevant for you? For those of you for whom your happy place was in connection to a friend, maybe a family member, a chosen family member, a pet, maybe it was in an environment where you're tending to a garden, or you're in the forest, or you're in the ocean, or you're jumping out of a plane. What does it tell you when your happy place is a physical place, an emotional place, a place you go within yourself, a state of being, or a context that with the right tweaking and a shift in where you put your attention, that your intention can become accessible. If our attention is always in pursuit of relationships that are not serving us, and not working for us, and not giving us the fulfillment that we're looking for, our intention can never be fulfilled. If our intention is to be in alignment with healing and moving in and toward a trajectory that makes us feel worthy and loved, giving ourselves opportunities to be in environments, to be in contexts, to be in community, to be surrounded by people who offer us that, who see us the way we want to be seen, who love us the way we want to be loved, who validate us in the ways we want to be validated, whether those people are people that we work with, people who live nearby, people who we go to school with, people who are part of our chosen family or our logical family. Or maybe they're not people. Maybe they are pets. Maybe they are the critters that live in the forest at the back of your house, or the beach at the back of your house, wherever you live. All of this to say that when our stories of attachment have become so focused on such a narrow understanding of fulfillment, we miss out on all of this technicolor. And one of the things that you may have heard me say if you've attended any of my classes before is that when we only see the world in black and white, we will always miss the rainbow. And this is true for attachment theory. If our scope of healing is always narrow, It has to be this and only this, otherwise I can't heal. We miss out on so many beautiful opportunities for connection and meaning and purpose and healing, allowing ourselves to find places, to find situations, to find contexts where we are, where we belong, where we matter, where our communities see us and validate us. And a community might be a community of one, depending where you are. It might be 5. It might be 50 if you're lucky. But even a community of one is good. Three deep breaths. Okay. For this next practice, I invite you, if you can, to get a pen and a piece of paper. And if you don't have that, a device that you can write into is also okay. And if you don't have that, you can just do it in your head. But if you have some capacity for writing, we're not going to be writing essays, just FYI. This is just a couple of words, so it's bullet points. So take a minute to get some kind of writing device. I'm going to have some water. Alrighty. So for this next practice, I want to invite you to answer these prompts. And just like 1 or 2 words, literally. Don't write a whole sentence. When I think of love, an action, so a verb, an action I think of is, write it. Go with your gut. Don't overthink it. When I think of love, an action I think of is, so it might just be a handshake or a squeezing of hands or a hands to the heart or a rubbing the cheeks, that kind of an action. When I think of love, an action I think of is, well, don't overthink it. This is very instinctual. All right, next one. When I think of safety, an action I think of is, when I think of safety, an action I think of is, next one. When I think of belonging, an action I think of is, again, just go with the first thing that comes to you. That's usually the best one, the right one, the one that fits. We don't overthink these things. When I think of belonging, an action I think of is what is it? 2 more. When I think of solidarity, an action I think of is action, doing word, When I think of solidarity, an action I think of is last one. When I think of intimacy, an action I think of is when I think of intimacy, an action I think of is okay. So before we go on, any questions or comments about where we're at right now? What if nothing comes up for the prompt if it feels blocked? Then it just is. It'll come. Didn't come up with verbs, it was nouns. All right. If you don't like what you get, that's okay. We don't have to like things that come to us in life. We don't like a lot of. I mean, I don't like a lot of the shit that I have to deal with in life. This is not about liking. This is about building capacity. This is about healing. This is about building resilience and strength. So this is not about liking. There's a really big difference between healing and liking. A lot of healing, unfortunately, can feel challenging. And we grow to appreciate discomfort. One of the big things I think that's super important that we recognize here is that discomfort and pain are not the same thing. If something is painful, like painful, stop. That is your body's way of saying this is the wrong direction for me. Stop. Don't power through pain. That's a bad idea. Discomfort, though, and a lot of you had an experience of discomfort in the first session, in the first section, where we were talking about unworthiness and loneliness, that it was in the beginning, and then you sat with it for a minute or two and it got lighter, or it moved, or something happened. You didn't like it, but it shifted in such a way that it became less uncomfortable. So discomfort tells us where we can lean in to something in order to activate change, in order to activate healing, in order to activate a shift that makes more room, that that we can grow, we can get our reps in, we can get stronger. That's what discomfort teaches us. If something is painful, the more we lean into it, the worse it feels. So that is where we go, all right, you know what, this is not working for me today. I'm not going to do this. Okay. But only we get to determine if something is discomfort based or pain based. I can't tell you whether you're experiencing discomfort or pain. You can do that. And in the context of a workshop like this, I would say if something isn't working, if you have to push too hard to get there, don't do it. Just pull back from it a little bit. And sometimes that practice, this is the thing, even of like, I've got to heal, I've got to heal. And we push and push and push so hard, and we end up exactly in the place that we don't want to be. Lean back from it and then just see if something comes. And if it doesn't come, that's okay. You've got tomorrow, you've got later this afternoon, you've got the next week, you've got the rest of your life. It's okay. There's nothing to panic about. If something isn't working for you in this moment, there are many, many other moments. It's okay. It's all okay. Can someone list all the words we just explored? Yes. Oh, we've got somebody here. We're coming back to this. It's not a completed action. I just wanted to see if there were any other questions. I couldn't think of actions. I needed a list. Okay, that's all right. We're gonna get to that. Is this about knowing ourselves? Maybe. We'll find out. These prompts were my inner child survival strategies. Yes. Examples of how to answer belonging or solidarity. I thought about compassion, empathy, and kindness. This is great. So these are all, these are going to be things. And the reason that I purposely didn't give you any leading prompts is because I wanted to invite you to see what was there for yourself. So as we go into the next part of the activity, which is related to what we've done with the writing, you're going to get to share some of this together. So we'll keep the chat open for a little bit, but what's going to happen next is from the list, from those of you who were able to think of actions or bring actions to life, and perhaps as we continue into this next part of the activity, those of you who were feeling a bit stuck will get unstuck, and that's okay. And if you don't get unstuck, well, it's also okay. Learn from the others. So for those of you who want to do this next part, which is a physical embodiment practice, keeping your cameras on so other folks can see you might help them move into whatever it is that they need to move into, especially the folks who are stuck. Watching folks for whom this exercise was a bit more straightforward, that can be helpful. Watching role models can be helpful. Healing is always best when done in community, not in isolation. This is not something we have to endure by ourselves. We heal together in community, in relationship. That's what attachment is about, being together in relationship with each other. So what I'm going to invite you to do now, to demonstrate to the group, to see, so we're going to be watching each other and we're going to be seen. People are going to be watching us. We're going to bring the thoughts, when I think of such and such, the action I think of is such and such, we're going to do it. So first of all, I invite you to demonstrate the love action. So when I think of love, an action I think of is this. I bring my hands up to my chest and I press. So when I think of love, I do this. What does it look like for you? What does love look like as an action for you? Do the activity. Do it on repeat. Breathe and do the thing. Let yourself feel what it feels like. Let yourself feel what it feels like to do the action of love. Repetition can sometimes make things stick. On repeat. Love. This is what love feels like to me. And observe what other folks are doing. Does it look the same? Does it look different? If you didn't have an idea, is there somebody doing an action that you think, oh yeah, that's what love feels like to me. I'm going to do that too. We heal in community. There is no pressure to get it right all by yourself. All right, next one. Safety. For me, safety is, ugh, ugh. That's what safety feels like. Grounding. Show me your safety. When safety is yours. And watching other people embodying safety. What does it look like? So remember, love and safety are tools for healing attachment wounds. They're not just concepts. They're not just things that we think about. They're things that we do. And so these actions can feel accessible when larger, riskier actions feel inaccessible. Small gestures that we can do and see and be seen doing can help us feel brave enough to try an action that's a little bit more risky one day. Not today. Okay, safety. Next one. So belonging. Belonging for me looks like this. Belonging. Show me your belonging. What does belonging look like for you? If you didn't have one, borrow somebody else's. You can borrow mine. What does belonging look like? And allow yourself to move your body, feeling belonging, embodying belonging. Even if your mind is like, I don't feel like I belong. That's all right. Your mind doesn't have to be on board. This is an opportunity for your body to lead. And in my case, belonging is, ah. And notice how your body feels doing actions that represent these states of being. Belonging. Next one. Solidarity. For me, this is what solidarity feels like. Show me your solidarity. And notice how each action might feel different than the others. Or maybe the same. And also notice how your body is responding. Notice how your body feels now in contrast to at the beginning of the workshop. Just noticing. And solidarity. How does solidarity feel in your body? Mm. And then the last one, intimacy, for me, feels like a hug. So it looks, in my case, it looks like solidarity, but there's a little bit more of a twist to it. This is what intimacy feels like for me. How does intimacy feel for you? Show me. And so just noticing between these actions of love, in my case, this was love, safety, belonging, solidarity, and intimacy. I want to invite you now to choose just two, your favorite two of those actions, and do them on repeat for 2 minutes. So choose two that you're going to do, and we're going to do them on repeat for 2 minutes. Are you ready? Okay, begin. So I'm doing love and belonging because they're two really big ones for me. Seeing everybody doing their actions, because embodiment is about doing. It's not about conceptualizing. Embodiment doesn't work when you just think about it. Embodiment is something that we do. And having an action can help us send messages from the body up to the brain rather than waiting for the brain to do it first, especially with attachment that tends to be not logical. Using the body as a place for healing, we get to override the squirrels in our heads that are talking shit to us all the time about stuff that doesn't matter, but we think it's truth, and it's just trash. One more minute, actually half a minute. Oh, wow. I don't need to go to the gym today. I'm getting my shoulder workout in. All right, and so let's bring it to a close. Thank your body for showing up for this. Find a way to thank yourself. Hand on the heart, hug, pat your head, whatever is a way for you to say, hey, thanks, body, for showing up for this. And I want to remind you that these felt senses you can access any old time. And these are, this is about exploring alternatives to romance culture when we're feeling like we don't belong, like we're feeling that we're unworthy, when we're feeling lonely. Remembering that we can tune into our bodies to notice how we can use our biochemistry to alter what we might be thinking and feeling, stories that are telling us that I'm not this or I'm not that, or I can't have this or I can't have that, that there are different ways that we can access shifting our biological relationship to healing that is not rooted only in pursuing romance, but in pursuing relationships with our happy place, whether it's a physical place or the form of a person, the form of community, a pet, these types of things, thinking about how we can structure our lives to bring in more of what we want and less of what we don't want, putting our attention on our intention. If our intention is to experience love and belonging and solidarity and intimacy, what can we do? How can we put our attention on making that happen? How can we put, this is the meditation. How am I going to bring love and belonging into my life today? That's my story. I don't know what yours is. But for the last 10 minutes of this class, I'm going to turn it over to you. And I want to hear about questions, but also I want to hear what you're going to take away from today. What resonated with you? And what are you going to, how might you apply some of this to your personal life or your professional life? And I want to hear thoughts, feelings, experiences, what you're taking away. Over to you, folks.
Yeah, Jess, this was amazing. I'm taking away feeling so much less alone and less shame about not being in a romantic relationship and struggling to be in one, and divorce and all sorts of stuff. And I actually fit the more traditional, right? I've been married, I had a child, and it feels like everything's just fallen apart.
Mm-hmm.
And then
This is the thing.
menopause,
Even traditional relationships are not what we're told they're supposed to be. Like I
right?
find few people fit the traditional relationship mold, really.
And
Even traditional people.
sorry, I'm 55, so I've gone through menopause recently, and I've had this major like part of myself that thinks I've lost all value, like according to society, right? I'm not married, I'm not fertile, I'm what am I, And this was so healing and refreshing, and I'd love to learn more about your background, like what you're trained, what do you call this that you did with us today? Because I'd like to learn more. Thank you so much.
Magic. That's what I call it, Jess. I
Magic,
call it magic.
indeed. Thank you.
Thank you, Jess. Thank you, Jess. Who was next?
I thank you so much. I just put in the chat as well. You read my comment out loud about what if we don't like it? And to further on that, when I think of love, the action I think of is affection, sex, kissing. And my action was humping, but it felt like a violation to like, that's why I was like, can we fix it? Can we change it? Same with safety. I felt chained up, contained, like straitjacketed. And the action I took was like to squeeze my face and my body and really guard and duck. And that the awareness was beautiful, profound, and disturbing. What do I do with it?
Yeah, thank you, iPhone. I
Thank you.
think um I would take that to coaching and or therapy. There's some very rich work there to unpack, and I think your body is working beautifully. It's giving you a lot of information and it's telling you that it is there, it has things to share with you, and it wants to be in communication with you, would be my takeaway from that. And those messages are profound, profound, profound. So before we judge our responses and our visceral reactions to things as bad or wrong or unhealthy or anything like that, we thank our bodies for being honest with us and showing us the path, leaning into the discomfort. And remember that discomfort is not a sign of anything alarming necessarily, but it's teaching us, it's illuminating the path for us. So this is where we start to learn to interpret the body's signals, not as literal, but as signposts. And we show gratitude to our bodies as beacons of where we need to go next. I think for you, iPhone, a skilled practitioner, therapist slash very competent coach, would be someone that you would benefit from working with if it's in your budget, or certainly doing some somatic group work where you get to work on this, I think would be handy for you as well. Um, um, I mean, I'm available. I do individual coaching. I'm not, pushing my services, but if you like my style, you're welcome to work with me. But that would be my recommendation. Thanks, iPhone. Who was next? Shane.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. I think my question is related to, first of all, thank you for the practice. It's really, helping me feel the embodiment part that, about like self-healing. I'm just curious about when you share about, we need to heal in a community versus self-healing. What is the balance in between these two when we talk about self-regulating and co-regulating as well? How do I know when I should reach out for co-regulating? And how do I know when I can self-regulate myself? Sometimes it's hard to reach out when we
Yes.
need it. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think, Shane, that there is a magic point that's going to be the same for everybody.
Yep.
You, with practice, will
Mhm.
know when you are doing it by yourself and when you would rather do it with another person or persons. That can
Mm,
be an animal.
mm,
We can do co-regulation with a pet.
mm,
Um, Again, this emphasis on it has to be a human, it has to be a partner, it has to be this, it has to be that. It doesn't have to be anything. If our goal is regulation, we orient our compass to what's going to regulate me right now. What do I need to just hug? It could be a teddy bear, for crying out loud. Like anything that gives us the thing we're hungry for. So in that exercise of, love, belonging, intimacy, safety, solidarity, you might ask yourself, what do I need right now? And your body might say, oh, I need belonging. What might give me belonging right now? So I might do the gesture of belonging in my case, and I might think about who makes me feel like I belong. Oh, I know. The lady at the grocery store who I always talk to about the price of eggs. All of a sudden, I feel belonging when I go down there, because when I walk into the store, she's always happy to see me and she remembers my name, and I feel
mm,
belonging with her. Now, I'm not going to hug her. I'm not going to anything with her. But she makes eye contact with me and she remembers my name for no reason, but I feel like I belong there for that tiny, tiny thing. She might be somebody I go to for a moment just to say, oh, hi. And I don't need to give her any whole spiel about what's happening in my day, but just knowing that she is there and she is in my community. I think we tend to overemphasize regulation and co-regulation as this thing that has to happen in very high context situations where we're with, best friends and family members and lovers and all this stuff, when just, eye contact with the bus driver, sometimes that can be enough co-regulation. It really depends on your context. So I can't say for sure, Shane, when you're going to know the difference between doing it by yourself and doing it with others. But if you find that you tend to default to solo because being around others makes you feel some kind of way, then perhaps that could be an indication that you can practice the discomfort of being in the company of other people. Perhaps, I don't know. It would be very context dependent. Or if you're always with other people because being by yourself makes you feel anxious, then possibly it would lean the other way. There's not a black and white thing. It's always about the context in which your life exists and the story that
Thank
you.
you.
So it's very separate in that way. You're welcome, Shane. Next, is it
Thank you.
Jeannie?
Hi, I'll make it brief. Yeah, for safety, I put my hands up to block whatever harm is coming towards me.
Uh-huh.
You know, in the love and togetherness, that was all a hug, but that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Jeannie. Thank you. Yeah, safety can be this. Boundaries. Cece.
Hi.
Hi.
So my takeaway for today is cognitively, I knew that attachment and love isn't, dependent on intimate relationships, but my takeaway today was that I actually physically felt it, specifically when you did the activity where we had to go to a happy place. And I felt today that a happy place for me is nature and specifically a rainforest and a toucan. I visualized a toucan bird and its beak, and I would love to go to a rainforest someday. So to me, that my takeaway was that.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
That's the thing. A happy place can be anything. It can be in your bed. It can be on the couch. It can be, shopping in New York. It can be anything. It can be lying in a dog bed. Anything is possible. So thank you, Cece. I appreciate it. Thank you to all of you. I really appreciate having you all here. I hope you got something from this class. You can follow me on the social medias, on my website, and I'm always around the Embody Lab doing stuff, talking about stuff. It's been an absolute delight to spend my Sunday morning with you all, and thank you. Go well into the rest of the day. Stay warm, stay cool, stay on the planet, stay alive, please. Thank you.